Okay then, is the pressure mounting on Fabian Hürzeler after a difficult game at the Emirates and ultimately Brighton and Hove Albion out of the Carabao Cup? Thank you very much for coming to this video and welcome to Seagull Central. My name is Adam MacDonald and this is my YouTube channel. Welcome along. If you've been here before, thank you very much for coming along. I really appreciate you viewing, listening, getting involved. And if this is your first time coming to my channel, thank you very much. I appreciate your view. I appreciate your click and I appreciate you engaging with this debate after a difficult night for the Albion, a strange night for the Albion, where actually it was kind of a game of two halves, quite a good performance at times, but other kind of baffling moments. And it's been building a trend, a feeling of momentum, of things just not quite being good enough, not quite being the standard we all kind of hoped and expected and believed the squad can deliver. And it feels like a bit of fan momentum is shifting, particularly tonight if you read social media, if that's anything to go by. If you hear the grumblings in the kind of terraces as well, it feels a little bit different. It feels like the momentum is shifting after another poor performance in the second half. You know, decent start, but also a kind of a wasteful game, another game without a clean sheet, another loss. I don't know, it just feels a little... forgive me if this feels a little bit negative, but I'm trying to encapsulate the vibe I've been getting from a lot of supporters this evening. Look, I think going out of the Carabao Cup, it's neither here nor there, really, in terms of what you expect. Do you expect to go through and win the competition? Maybe, probably not. Do you expect to get dumped out in the early stages? No. Do you expect to probably lose against Arsenal when you go away in the kind of, quarterfinal last 16? Yeah, you probably do. So there are other kind of ways that Brighton want to fight this season, other fronts Brighton want to fight this season, namely kind of delivering European football would be one of them. Clearly winning a trophy would be one of them. So this is a blow in a sense, but I don't think it's the blow to the season. What I think more this represents is just the kind of question marks around this Brighton, not so much side, because I don't want to put it on the players, but this Brighton moment, it just feels very meh. It feels very okay. It feels like we're kind of, meandering along in a season that's kind of not really meaning anything. We've got a side which looks pretty decent, but can't really seem to get that mettle to kind of be consistent enough. We've got a head coach who I think lots of us maybe aren't too sure about. Kind of not really seeing clear tactical acumen or style or ability, really. And it just feels like a season so far of missed opportunities. And I think that's why this exit from the Carabao Cup will feel kind of bitter in a way. Not bittersweet at all. There's nothing sweet about it. It will feel bitter because it does feel a little bit like, wasted opportunities. Speaking of wasted opportunities, if we get into the game itself, I think what we can say positives-wise, actually, and if you're going to give Fabian Hürzeler some credit, is I think the first half, Brighton did look very good. In terms of chances, Brighton looked a cut above Arsenal. They had certainly the better of the chances in the first half. You think about the way that Tzimas got in behind a number of times. Rutter had a brilliant chance. De Cuyper had a couple of good chances. Ferdi, Kadıoğlu got in behind the defence. We looked good and we had some very good opportunities. There was obviously the Tzimas chance early on where he was one-on-one versus the keeper and fluffed it. Really, I think you got to be scoring that. If you had Danny Welbeck, would you have kind of bet your house on him scoring it? Perhaps. Van Hecke with a header from a De Cuyper corner. That's a goal that you think is safe as houses. Well, it wasn't. We missed that. And ultimately, Brighton ended up going on to get punished. I think what you got to say in the first half, though, is that Brighton looked good. I think, we played this three at the back, the elusive three at the back, which we've all been speaking about. Is he going to do it? Is Fabian Hürzeler going to do it? And we saw it tonight. Now, look, I actually think, for what it's worth, it looked pretty decent. I think in the first half, Brighton looked like a side who are playing really confidently, playing through Arsenal. The build-up was brilliant. The combinations, the way that they were playing under pressure, it opened us out a little bit more. It allowed us to play in a way which actually utilised the players we had available best. I think maybe if a Mitoma is back fighting fit, if Minteh is starting every game, maybe this isn't the best formation for them, because how would you fit a Rutter in? You can't play a Welbeck and a Tzimas. Does Minteh get do you lose Minteh and Mitoma to kind of wing backs? How would that work? However, I think for this game, it looked good. The positives were, Boscagli looked excellent. We had decent performances from Carlos Baleba as well. Georginio Rutter in the first half looked good. I've written here, first half, dominant, confident, crisp passing through midfield. And it was good. We had very, very good chances. Boscagli looking composed. Baleba did look back to his, when we're not going to say the best with Baleba, but he's looking back to that kind of 60, 70, 75% of Baleba that we know. The new signings in the main slotted in well. I thought in the first half particularly, Charalampos Kostoulas looked bright, he looked energetic. He looked like a João Pedro regen in moments. Obviously he's a couple of years, 2-3 years younger than the time we would have seen João Pedro at Brighton. However, he looks like he's got a raw energy about him, and we saw, it's not just a youthful innocence of the way he plays, it's actually a quality, and he looks like he's ready to mix it with the big boys. So I'm really excited to see more of him because I thought he had a good performance. But this is what I mean when we get onto the baffling decisions and the inconsistencies and the strange. I think this is why Fabian Hürzeler is maybe losing a little bit of faith, because of the things like bringing Kostoulas off. That just felt like a killer in the game. When Kostoulas was creating so many problems, bringing him off, I just don't know, didn't like that. The second half was a flip side to everything we saw in the first half. I've written here, flat, passive, kind of lacking energy, and it felt like that Kostoulas substitution really encapsulated that. Look, maybe we'll find a reason why that happened. Maybe it wasn't just a tactical thing, and if it was enforced, then fair enough. But I think what we're seeing is a repeat of the pattern that's happening week in, week out for Brighton at the minute. We're either excellent for the first 45 and bad for the second, or we're terrible for the first 45 and very good for the second. And we either lose games or we find our way to get the moments. We are moments FC still. And I think what we're finding now is that due to the fact we can't be consistent, we can't get the results, and we don't look like a side who can challenge in the top half of the table for the European positions. My concern around Brighton at the moment is we just simply look too easy to beat. 20 games now without a clean sheet. I just think we are a very, very poor defensive side. And okay, we did well for most of the first half to kind of block the options that Arsenal had. I thought Boscagli did play well. I thought Baleba played well. I thought Maxim De Cuyper in general played pretty well. But we just don't look like a side who is coached to defend well. I don't know whether it's due to the style of how we play. I don't really know what it is at this point, but it's concerning. It's obviously a momentum thing. It's obviously a vibe thing. It's obviously a feeling thing. But we're in a bit of a weird place. I've kind of summarised some of the points that were made on social media. There's a growing feeling now, I think, that I've seen a few comments tonight as I prepared to do this video around people saying that Hürzeler's out of his depth and the team's gone backwards since De Zerbi. No clean sheet in 20 games, obviously. Once a couple of years ago under Potter, known for defensive control. It's interesting, isn't it? This game, to me, did feel like a kind of prime Graham Potter game. In those kind of brutal days of Graham Potter, that particularly the first half where we had so many chances to finish it and we literally just couldn't. And we just didn't look good enough to finish our dinner. So I do think the calls for not so much change, but I think that restlessness amongst the fan base is building and it's growing. And I don't think it's because of results, is it? I don't think people would go into a game against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup and expect to win, or think if this result doesn't happen, then this guy's got to go. It's not like that. I think it's to do with the toothlessness that we sometimes play with. And obviously in this game, the ruthlessness that we didn't play with, but also the fact that we do just simply look too easy to beat. I didn't personally feel like after we'd even conceded the first goal that we looked like we were going to be able to come back into the game. I felt the substitutions that were made looked okay. They didn't really make too much of a difference. I don't know. I just think there's just something about. I've said it before around the Hürzeler thing. Like, I just don't feel like to me, I can't see how he is ever the difference maker. I just don't. Even when he brings the subs on, I didn't necessarily feel like, oh yeah, they're the right subs, this is going to change the game, or he's seen something tactically in this game that he wants to kind of make best of. As soon as we made our 3 subs, to be fair, Arsenal were able to bring on a lot of quality in their 3 subs. So you've got to take that into consideration, that, they were able to bring on some very, very good players to kind of new to the threat that Brighton had tried to bring on through, Watson, minteh, etc. I don't know, where does that leave us? I think, look, the 3-4-3 or the 5-3-2, whatever you want to call it, kind of worked. It did work early on, and Brighton on the break looked like a very decent attacking prospect. We were able to create opportunities. We were able to get in behind them. We were able to look like we can make things difficult. Were we ruthless? No. But on another day, might we be? Yes. And it might be a different conversation. I think there were smatterings of decent performances that we can take. I think Boscagli, I think Baleba, I think De Cuyper looked decent. I think Rutter at times looked okay. I don't necessarily think the Greek lads had a brilliant kind of night to remember, but I think you're seeing again that energy, that intensity from your Tzimases, your Kostoulas. You can see the glimmers, you can see the glimpses, you can see the decent players in there. And despite the fact Tzimas missed a kind of gaping chance or two, I've got confidence in him, and I like the way he plays, and I like the way he's tireless. And the same with Kostoulas. I'm excited to see them. I think, we create chances, this Brighton side. We're very good at pressing, but I do think we kind of lack that conviction, be it in attack or even in defence. I think I don't know where we are now. I actually don't know where we are. Towards this manager, I do just feel a little bit at the moment, like I don't really know what to expect week on week performances. I don't feel a real conviction or a sense of excitement or feeling of, I just don't feel any kind of conviction towards what we're doing at the moment, and I'd hate to go back to the De Zerbi thing, but you really did on that. You felt like you were taking on a journey. You knew what your side was, and you knew you might get a result, you might not, but this is what we're doing, and I don't really know what we're doing. And it doesn't help that we don't look like a great side at the moment. We look okay. We look like we've got smatterings of potentials. We look like we have moments where we can look decent. But do we look like a very good side? I wouldn't say so. I think we look like an okay side with some pretty good individual players. He kind of a moments FC. And I don't know. I don't see it changing this season at least. It's been a concern I've had for a while. But I think, we've actually got a better squad than we did a couple of years ago in terms of players. Maybe not the best side we've ever had. I think that was probably the 22-23 season under De Zerbi in terms of the squad. But we've got we've got a better squad than last season, and we seem to be not worse, but just weirder, less predictable, less consistent. So I don't know. I'm not feeling great at the moment. I think I liked the 3-5-2. Or the 5-3-2, whatever you want to call it, 3-4-3 or whatever. I thought that was good. I thought the 3 at the back actually looked good, and I thought in the first half we played with confidence. Are we going to repeat that in the league? I don't know. Will that be a turning point if we do change that? I don't know. How are we going to bring Mitoma and minteh into that? I do not know. These aren't the questions for me. But I would love to know your thoughts. Where do you stand on this? Do you feel confident in the journey that we're on, in the system that we're moving through? Or do you kind of feel these weird feelings of reservations? And has tonight even affected that or shaped that? Or is this just a game where, look, we've lost it, we moved on, it's not a big deal to you? How do you reflect on it, and how do you feel going into the game against Leeds on Saturday? Let me know in the comments. As I always say, if you've got this far in the video and you haven't already, and you find yourself coming back to this channel, or you've just enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and turn your notifications on. It means you'll never miss a video. So you'll be the first to the fastest and the best Brighton content out there on social media, specifically on YouTube. I love you guys. I appreciate the community, and I really, really hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you have enjoyed this, go back and watch all the other ones. We're putting out videos pretty much every day at the moment, talking all things Brighton, reacting to games, deep dive into tactical kind of things, but also just general talking points, be it around players, systems, whatever you're probably thinking in terms of Brighton. There'll be a video in the last kind of month or so where we get into that. So go and have a look and get involved in the channel. I really, really appreciate you coming along. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the Leeds game, where we will hopefully have a little bit more positive, a little bit more of a positive conversation to have. I'll be back before then to preview it, to maybe go into this game a little bit deeper, and we can try and feel a little bit better. Maybe you feel better. Maybe I'm just being a Debbie Downer. Who knows? Let me know. Right. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next video. And as always, up the Albion.